Make peace with your parents. As someone who didn't necessarily grow up with my parents, as someone who spent time in foster care and all of that stuff, I've shared all of this before. Sometimes we can really sit down and think and wish that things were different. So if you're someone who you didn't really grow up with your parents, or you didn't have present parents, or if you're a careleaver, or if you were adopted, whatever the case may be, learn to make peace with your parents. And this is if you want to have a relationship with your parents and you want to live in peace and harmony with your parents, it's important for you to look at things as what they are. Your parents are human. Your parents also have their own trauma, their own traumas. Try to look at them as human. Try to look at them as people who probably lived through trauma as well as kids. And you have to say to yourself, okay, what circumstances were my parents in when they had me? So when I look at my own circumstances that of my parents, I look at the fact that my mum was 15 and my dad wasn't ready to be a dad, or he didn't want to be a dad. That's their circumstances. That's what it is. It's about you looking at things as they are. Like, what is the situation? What was the situation? And then you start to build it from there, in a sense where you look at it and you say, okay, what does a 15-year-old know about being a mother? Not much. A lot of us, our parents had us when they were young, and we were brought up by grandparents, right? We were brought up by grandparents. So if you were brought up by your grandparents and your mom or your dad couldn't really look after you in that way, it's about you looking at what traumas and what circumstances were your parents facing at that time, and making peace with that. Making peace with that and letting it go. Because if you hold on to the fact that, they weren't there, they didn't show up, try to see things from a different perspective. Who did show up? For me, my grandmother showed up. Other family members showed up. That throughout my life, there's been so many people who have played a part in raising me. Hence why I speak about the village. I speak about, in a separate video, I'm going to speak about building a village for yourself, and focusing on the people who are around, as they are your community. They form your community. Who was around? Who provided support when your parents weren't around, when your parents weren't able to look after you, to take care of you? Sometimes you've got to sit down and say, okay, if I was in their situation, what would I have done? Sometimes I sit down and I think to myself, imagine having a kid at 15. She must have been scared. She must have felt embarrassed. While her friends were out having a good time living as teenagers, she was pregnant. I speak to my mum now, and she shares that she did have the option to have an abortion. In fact, they did take her to have an abortion. And she did have an abortion. I just never came out. I'm still here. So even that story in itself is a miracle to me, right? So I'm a miracle baby in a sense. But look at things for what they are. Your parents are human. They lived their own traumas. Yes, it's not perfect. Like, we can play the blaming game and be like, well, she should have just not had me, or she should have focused on other things instead of having, like, so many things can go through your mind. But if you want to move forward, if you want a relationship with your parents, if you want to live in peace and in harmony, you've got to make peace with what it is and what it was. And what it is that this is where we are now. This is where you are now. Look at your life. Look around and say, wow, I've actually done okay for myself. Personally, I look at myself and I'm like, damn, I've done great. I've done absolutely amazing. Anything else I accomplish from here on is going to be a bonus, because I've already done absolutely amazing for myself. I've been able to finish school, you know, undergrad, postgrad. I've been able to work and do meaningful work, meaningful jobs in this world, and play an important role within society. I've been able to heal myself mentally, emotionally, and I'm breaking the cycles. According to some people, I would have gotten pregnant at 15, just like my mum got pregnant at 15. Well, I've beat that. So look at yourself where you are right now. Where are you right now? And what does life look like? For someone who didn't grow up with parents, for someone who didn't have, your biological parents around, what does your life look like right now? And be proud of that. Be proud of that. Because there are so many people out there, their lives are mashed up because their parents weren't around from early. And it's brought them a lot of trauma. It brought me a lot of trauma. But I had to stand up. I had to be strong. I had to be firm. I had to really take life on. So look at that. Look at that and make peace with that. Have open and honest conversations with your parents. I had conversations with my dad. I had conversations with my mum. And we've been able to make peace. What things look like moving forward is totally up to you. In a sense, you need to sit down and say, right, what do I want my family tree to look like? Because if you create the current family tree that you have, where you've got your grandparents, your parents, your siblings, if you have the desire to create a family, what do you want that family tree to look like? And what I'm specifically talking about is, do you want your kids to not have a relationship with your parents? Do you want your kids to come and you're still holding on to things of the past? And I know I'm saying it as if it's easy, but it's not been easy. It's not been an easy ride for me. It's been very, very difficult to make peace, to heal. It's been very difficult to say, okay, I'm going to focus on where I am right now and what relationships do I want to maintain. So within your family tree, who are the people within your family that do love you, that do care about you, that do show up for you? Show up for them, be around, love on them. And that's your family. There was this victim mindset that I had, where it was like, well, they don't like me, they don't what. I had to sit down and say, right, this is what it was in the past. This is where my parents are right now. They gave me what they could, and they did what they could with what they had. Am I going to keep holding on to the past, or am I going to move forward? Okay. I've had open conversations with my parents. Okay. The relationship that I have with my dad, I've shared this before, is not necessarily your typical father and daughter relationship. However, he's in my life. We're in talking terms. And to a certain extent, I do care about him. Okay? And with my mum, we do have a decent relationship. Okay. Now I can go and have kids, and knowing that I'm good with my parents. I'm good. Even if they weren't around back in the day, I've made peace. I've made peace. Like, we need to learn to make peace. Especially if you're about to start a family, you need to learn to make peace. I'm not talking about those who are already okay with their parents. If you're already okay with your parents, that's fine. But I'm referring to, even if you do live with your parents and you're holding grudges because you wish that things were different, find peace. Find a way to make peace. And making peace doesn't mean that you're going to be buddy, you're going to be the best of friends, you're going to be you're going to have the best mother. And so relationships are to be built. I feel like with my mum and I, we needed to have a breakdown. Like, our relationship broke down because out of my mum and dad, I used to think that my dad was the bad one and my mum was the good one because she's the one that had me and I was with her. But sometimes when it comes to that, a lot of women don't feel like they have a choice, especially within the African community. Like a lot of women feel like they don't have a choice, so they kind of stuck with the child, right? So a lot of us are closer to our mums than we are to our dads side of the family. And a lot of the times I thought that, oh, my mum was the good one. But I had to sit down and say, actually, my mum had a part to play as well. So, but all of those conversations have been had and we've cleared the air. And now I know that, okay, once I start having kids, I know that my wounds from my parent, like mummy issues, daddy issues have been healed. And now I can move forward, you know, whenever I decide to have kids, then I'm gonna go in peace, knowing that the upper part of the family tree is secure, is strong. You know, it may not be in the best, you know, in a overly mushy flowers, dandelions, and all of that stuff, but it's in a healthy condition, so that when I do start to, you know, create those roots, because it's a family tree it's about how strong that tree is. When trials and tribulations come, those trees will shake, but will it break? We have to be building strong foundations. And if you feel like the foundation of your family is not strong, you need to strengthen those relationships, have those conversations that need to be had. And it's difficult, especially speaking to African parents. Sometimes it can be difficult. My dad wasn't trying to have the conversation. He wasn't trying to face the fact that he wasn't here. It's almost like it's something that we just had to forget. I had to say to him, no, you weren't here. You weren't here. And that's the truth. So you can't expect me to be all lovey-dovey on you as if you were always here when you weren't. So we really had to have those conversations. And now my dad and I, we can just have conversations. We can have conversations. And with my mum, she's been a bit avoiding the conversation, but we had to have those conversations and say, look, I need this. You owe me this. You know, you owe me this. Let's have this conversation. And we've had the conversations. So find peace with your parents. And again, tap into your emotions. How do you feel? Is it anger? Are you feeling anger towards your parents? Are you feeling like, oh, like if it's resentment, if it's anger, feel the emotion. I'm not saying don't feel the emotions. Feel the emotions. Do what you need to do to deal with those emotions. But once you're finished being angry, once you've listen, being angry can be exhausting. Being angry can be exhausting. So once you're tired of doing that, you're now like, okay, I'm tired of being angry with you people. Yeah, I'm tired of being angry with you people. Then find solution. How do you want to move forward with your parents? Yeah, I'm not talking about you forcing relationships with people who have really, because I don't talk to my adopted parents. I don't. Because for me, what they done is beyond. Right? So, but I've made peace. And if I see them, I'll say hello. But that's as far as it goes. But in terms of my biological parents, we have a relationship. Yeah. So if you feel like what your parents did to you is beyond repair, it's not about forcing or making those relationships. It's about making peace within yourself and then starting a family and then considering, okay, now I'm ready. Whenever I'm ready to have kids, I can just, start my own family in peace, because I know that where I've come from, I've now made peace with that. It's so important. It's so important. Especially if you want your parents to be part of your children's lives. Especially if you want your parents to be part of your children's lives. So find how search within yourself, sit down, draw your family tree. What does it look like? What do you want yours to look like continuing on? Because a family tree, you don't separate the family tree, you know. Even if you don't chat to family members, the family tree will never get separated, because your parents will always be your parents. Your grandparents will always be your grandparents. And as you go forth and you start making your own family, it's almost like it's just going to continue on. You're just going to continue the family tree. It doesn't stop. You can't cut, like, yes, you can cut off certain family members, but you will always be connected to them because they are your family. That's reality. So even if you don't want to maintain those relationships, make peace, at least within yourself, and say, right, this is what happened. This is what my parents were able to do. This is what they couldn't do. This is what they done. This is what they didn't do. All right, cool. I'm moving forward and this is how I want to do it. And then you move with peace and you move with harmony, because that way you're not bringing anything to your new family that you're about to create. I'm your personal development coach, C-Positivista. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this type of content. Click that like button if you like this video, and I'll see you on the next one.